Hello everyone, welcome to Tatami Room, Season 2, Episode 2, Tokyo and Yokohama. This is your host Martin. I apologize in advance, my voice is a little scrappy. I got sick again. If you've known me for a while, you know that I tend to get colds quite often. So yeah, it's another one of those. A little unfortunate because I'm training for a judo tournament right now, and so I had to skip a couple days of training. In any case, so this episode I wanted to talk about Tokyo and Yokohama, give you all a little preview, but also kind of narrate it through the lens of my trip, which was from December 26th last year till the 2nd of this year. I'll be giving recommendations and good spots, etc. The Stoic quote for this week is, "Settle on the type of person you want to be and stick to it, whether alone or in company." And this one's by Marcus Aurelius. So I thought this is a fitting quote, given that it's New Year's. People have New Year's resolutions that they're trying to stick to, and hopefully you're sticking to those resolutions, whether you're alone or you're with other people. I tend to do a little New Year's resolution type thing. I just write down a couple goals I have on a piece of paper, stick it up somewhere near my desk, and just kind of try keep those things in mind, my goals for the year. A little personal update that I want to share with you all. So I've gone back to school now. Classes are starting up again. It's not bad. But it's taken a little bit getting used to trying to get back into that rhythm. I've still had a couple of office days this week where I just prepare and study Japanese at the office. Honestly, I feel like those days, maybe other ALTs have them and they're like, yay, okay, you don't necessarily need to do anything. It is not like any specific commitment that you have. But honestly, I feel like because I have to be at the city hall, I would rather just be at a school teaching, and I'm with the kids, I'm with the teachers, and so it's just better. I think when I'm at the city hall, it's like I'm surrounded by people who are doing their own thing. My work isn't really related to theirs, so I just kind of sit there by myself the entire time. I also mentioned that I was training for a judo tournament. This will be the tournament for the island, the Tanegashima tournament, if I understand correctly. It's coming up quite soon. 2 more weeks left. It's going to be on the 4th of February. So I've been trying to get myself in shape for that. I've been going to the gym, and I've been doing soccer on Sundays. Didn't attend today. Still kind of felt a little bit under the weather. But one thing that was interesting to note was people are surprisingly good at soccer, and what I mean by that is I played soccer in middle school, and I was okay. I was like it's like a decent for a recreational level player. I wasn't anything special, premier player comes along, I'd get my butt kicked. But anyways, since then I've occasionally gone to a couple like Sunday leagues, kicked it around with some older folks, with my father. And so whenever you go to one of these kind of Sunday league situations in the U.S., you encounter people that they're just there for the fun of it. They don't have the best ball control, maybe not very athletic. And so I kind of expected the same thing here. But in Japan, if you do a hobby, that's like your hobby and you're good at it. So basically, where my level is on the lower end of the spectrum here. So if I go out and I'm playing with the rest of the lads, I haven't touched a ball in a long time, so it's kind of expected. But if it's like a normal Sunday league game in the U.S., for example, I can compensate with my speed and athleticism. But here, people are they're good. So that was kind of I need to really try during soccer. It's also nice because my students, some of my I play against my middle school students that are there, and they're inviting me. They're like, hey, you should come out and whatnot. And so it's been fun getting to kick the ball around with them as well. But with all that being said, let's jump right into talking about Tokyo and Yokohama after a short break. All right, welcome back, everyone. So first, I want to start by just kind of talking about my motivations for going on the trip. I've been to Tokyo before. I had not been to Yokohama before this trip, but I just wanted to get off the island during Christmas and New Year's time, hang out with some friends in the area, and just get back into this a bigger city atmosphere. I feel like hanging out on this island where I know a lot of people can be a little claustrophobic at times. I think if I ever stay, I think I mentioned this before, but if I'm at a family mart, one of the two family marts on the island, 30 minutes, I'm running into someone I recognize, and I like to kind of chill there. So it's sometimes it'd be nicer if I was more anonymous. But yeah, so I just want to kind of get out of the island, go back to Tokyo, and this is not again a little preface again, but I actually ended up staying in a capsule hotel for 6 evenings, I believe. I had never stayed in a capsule hotel before, and maybe some of y'all haven't either. So I want to kind of share that experience as well. Some of the positives were it was pretty clean, surprisingly clean, right? It had good amenities. There was free ramen or curry that they gave out every night. You could just take a packet up with you. Not gourmet food, but it's free. As a Hungarian, I can't say no to free things. I feel like they also had free ice cream, which is great. Free ice cream, free coffee, free tea. So I think that was really cool. And as expected, it was quite cheap. It was about 5,000 yen per evening, and if we're looking at this in terms of dollar value, that comes out to about 35-ish dollars per night. So it's definitely a good rate. And so the hotel was actually in Kawasaki, which is right between the town, right sandwiched between Tokyo and Yokohama. So it's at a pretty good location. It was right next to one of the train stations as well, so I couldn't complain. Now the negatives were kind of as expected. The space is very small. I didn't mind that part, but one thing that was a little bit annoying was the noise from other residents. I just had like a little curtain in front of my little capsule, so it was not soundproof whatsoever. So if noise bothers you and you need quiet to sleep, I don't recommend getting a capsule hotel. And finally, this is kind of one thing that annoyed me the most was at 10 a.m. You had to leave the hotel for cleaning. And so as someone, if I'm on vacation, I like to get up late, especially if I'm like out late the night before. I'm out with friends where we catch the Shuten, which is the last train back. I'm in bed by like, 2-ish. And it's like, I want to sleep in. And sometimes I felt a little rushed to, wake up, brush my teeth, and get out before they were like, hey, please leave. So yeah, that was my capsule hotel experience. So in terms of Tokyo and Yokohama, let's start by talking about Yokohama first. I actually spent most of my time here, I would say, or I spent quite a bit of time. I think I went down there like 3 or 4 times in total. I wanted to visit some of the museums. Unfortunately, I did not have the chance. The day that I went, one of the museums was fully booked. When I wanted to go back the next day, I was feeling a little under the weather, so I just kind of had a rest day. And then the next day, I went back, and all the museums were closed for New Year's, so it just kind of didn't work out in my favor. Unfortunately, I really wanted to visit the Cup Noodle Museum. There's a Cup Noodle Museum in Yokohama. I think it's quite famous, and apparently there's something where you can create your own variety or like type of cup noodle. They package it, wrap it up for you, and whatnot. I think that would have been cool. Maybe if I'm in Yokohama again, then I'll give it a visit. one thing that I really enjoyed doing in Yokohama was walking around a lot. Walked a ton on one of the days. I think December 28th, I believe. I walked from Yokohama back to my capsule hotel in Kawasaki, which took about 3 hours. I think that day I walked I walked about a half marathon in total, somewhere around 21 kilometers. But it was awesome. I think walking from downtown Yokohama, all the big buildings, and then kind of going to this in between Yokohama Kawasaki area where it's still not rural, definitely not rural, but it's more residential. Less kind of tall buildings and more just kind of dwellings and whatnot, and then getting back into Kawasaki, where there's again the taller buildings, restaurants, and these population or hubs, these shopping malls and whatnot. So I thought that was I had a lot of fun doing that. If you like taking walks, I would recommend it. It's definitely a strenuous one, but yeah. I wanted to note some of the kind of tourist or sightseeing spots that I visited. Some of these are some of my favorites. So I got three for y'all. First of them being Yamashita Park. So Yamashita Park is a really beautiful park. It's right next to the water, and there's some cool sculptures and very nice greenery. There's great atmosphere as well. There's a bunch of benches. I sat down and read my book for a bit. But yeah, you can take a stroll through it. It's great. Some of the plants were still flowering even though it was the winter. It was very well kept and clean. I even caught a street performance over there. So I really recommend. I would recommend giving Yamashita Park a visit, if you are in the Yokohama area. Also, I found this out by just kind of walking around. But if you're familiar with Gundams, these are like massive robots that are featured in like Japanese television and anime, I believe. But the Gundam factory is actually right next to Yamashita Park, and so I was just kind of walking around, and I didn't go in because I wasn't too interested, and it would have been a bit too expensive for my taste. But I got pretty close to the actual Gundam. Snapped a couple photos of it. So that's kind of an additional bonus. Is if you're into Gundams, then you can combine that with the park visit as well. Now, next on my list is Chinatown. This is probably my favorite part of Yokohama. It was more like China City. In fact, it was a massive. It spanned blocks, and the reason I really liked it was you could just see it was people from all places and backgrounds who were coming together. It was really crowded when I was there, and the atmosphere was just great. The street food was awesome. I had this like fried chicken, I believe. Yeah, no, it was just a fun time. Everyone was having a blast. I even stopped by. They had I'm not sure what kind of shrine they had, but there was a shrine there, and I was able to go in. Yeah, it was a really cool experience. Yeah, and I just said like my favorite part of it was just everyone was coming together there. Especially here on the island, it's fairly every most like 99% of people are Japanese, and I think that's it's the same in most of Japan. But I mean, because the Chinatown is such a big tourist attraction, it was just everyone was there, old, young, Japanese people, foreigners. So it was awesome. Um, as I mentioned, I got street food. It was the fried chicken, and one of my other favorite parts was I got a Chinese palm reading. I think Tessul, if I remember, that's what it was called correctly. And it's funny because this Chinese palm reading is told to me in Japanese, but I'm trying to decipher what my palm reading is, even when I don't completely understand. I think one thing I remembered from it was that they said that one of the lines on my hands indicates that I like helping people a lot, which yeah, hopefully that's true. So that's something that I caught from it. There was a couple of things that I didn't understand from the palm reading, but yeah, that's another kind of interesting thing you can do if you're in the Chinatown area. And finally, I would say another really cool part of Yokohama was Minato Mirai. This is kind of a neighborhood, not residential, but shopping area. It's right next to the bay, and it is really awesome. There's a bunch of shopping malls nearby. There's the Cup Noodle Museum, which unfortunately I didn't get to visit. And you can kind of cross the bay on a bridge, and the views are awesome. So I went there multiple times. I was even in that area on New Year's Eve, and with all the lights going in the evening, it was also a cool experience doing that. There's actually a model ship nearby as well. It's a full, I don't know if it's a replica or they just preserved one of like an 1800s trading boat, but it's the full scale models there. You can go on board if you would so please. And also near Minato Mirai is the big Yokohama Tower. Not entirely sure how tall it is, but it's the tallest building in Yokohama. And yeah, it's a huge building, so you gotta stretch your neck to look up at the top of it. I think one of the biggest attractions of Minato Mirai is the Ferris wheel. It's one of the biggest in Japan, and it's called the Cosmo Clock 21. There's this huge Ferris wheel, and it has this like digital clock right in the middle, right on the eye. And when I was in Yokohama for New Year's, actually, and it was cool seeing like the countdown that they were doing and all the lights that they were playing on the Ferris wheel as the New Year's countdown was happening. But yeah, Minato Mirai is just it's a very commercial center. You got shopping malls, you got basically a lot of tourist attractions with the ship and whatnot. You got the big Yokohama Tower there, the Ferris wheel. Right next to the Ferris wheel, there's an amusement park, the Cup Noodle Museum as well. So it's just a lot of things to do in Minato Mirai. My overall vibe that I got from Yokohama. So I had a good time. Yokohama is great, but I did feel like it was a little too touristy for me, as well as a little too bougie. I'm out there. I'm balling out here on a teacher's salary. I actually, for jet people in Japan, make a decent amount of money, but having to, buying the plane tickets to come all the way up to Tokyo and Yokohama, and then spending money there, it's an expensive bill. So, for example, I visited what's called the Red Brick Warehouse, and it was filled with kind of expensive upper middle class boutiques. And it was kind of one of those times when you're just kind of window shopping and you feel out of place because you know you're not going to buy any of these items that are just way out of your budget. So that was something I had to reckon with. But overall, the views were great, and it's an interesting visit, especially if you have the money to spend. Moving on to Tokyo. So the most of the time I was in Tokyo, I'd say I was hanging out with my friends. But during that time, I did get to hit up a couple of the classic places. I went to Shinjuku, where it's a massive station. And what I learned during this trip is I can never find the right exit at this station. No matter what I do, I always I come out on. I'm consistent. I always come out on this one side, but that side is usually not the side that I'm meeting someone or where my destination's at. So Shinjuku's again. There's a lot of restaurants and shops there. Also went to Shibuya. Shibuya station is just a cool mention. Again, I think it's similar to Shinjuku in the fact that it's all the restaurants, shopping malls are nearby. But Shibuya is where Jujutsu Kaisen had a major scene or arc. Jujutsu Kaisen is an anime for those not aware. But yeah, so it was kind of funny to be in the place where the anime episodes took place. On one of my walks, I also came across Tokyo Station, which is it's this massive kind of European style old train station, at least from the outside. So it's interesting to look at that. Like I said, it reminded me of Europe and the train stations that I've seen there. I've also went to Akihabara. Akihabara is a great way to spend 2,000 yen, or Akihabara is a great place to spend 2,000 yen at an arcade. Akihabara is basically the technology hub of, or entertainment hub of Tokyo. So lots of arcades, maid cafes, that sort of thing. So if you're looking arcades, then Akihabara is the place. I uh, I I went to an arcade, lost 2,000 yen, didn't get anything, but it was still fun. I was just kind of messing around. I would be careful. I would caution you though, because the arcades, in the arcade, it does seem like, oh, you're just one more time away from getting that like toy or whatever you want, anime figure, but it's definitely not stacked in your favor. So I always kind of set a limit as to how much money I'm gonna spend at an arcade before I go in. There's usually it's like 1,000 or 2,000 yen. I don't really want to go. Don't feel comfortable going above that. So also interesting, at Akihabara, I stumbled into kind of an NSFW bookstore. So I just kind of went into went into an arcade, and I'm just kind of wandering around, and went downstairs. Thought it would be another level to the arcade. Turns out it's a bookstore, and I look around, and I quickly realized that it was the books and the contents of the books that were on display were not meant for everyone's eyes. So I quickly made a U-turn and left the premises there. On When I was with my friends, I also ended up going to Harajuku. Harajuku is also another major kind of shopping area. If if you think, oh wow, you've said this is a shopping area, this is a shopping area, you're right. There's kind of a lot of them in Tokyo. If I had to kind of categorize what I've said so far, so Shinjuku and Shibuya are more like, I would say, restaurant kind of places. Harajuku is, you got a lot of clothing and fashion shops, and Akihabara is, like I said, kind of the entertainment district. Um, in Harajuku, we went to Ichiran. It's a ramen shop, but it's kind of a tourist trap, in my opinion. We waited for about 30 minutes, and it's good ramen, but to be honest, I've had better. And it's weird because we were walking around later in the day. We saw another Ichiran. This is a chain restaurant, chain ramen restaurant, and there's people lined up outside. Like, it's a massive line, with like the wait time was like 90 minutes or something. And I'm like, you know what? It's good ramen, but I don't think it's worth to wait that amount of time for it. But yeah, and what was also interesting is in the lines, and even in the restaurant, the people that were in Ichiran were like 90% foreigners, which which was I found interesting. It's not. I feel like Japanese people are like, well, I'd rather hit up some other ramen place I know than wait 90 minutes. So yeah. I would say in Tokyo, my favorite activity overall on this trip was visiting shrines and temples. So I visited 3 or 4 shrines and temples while I was in Tokyo. And just a quick rundown on what the difference is a shrine is associated more with Shintoism, while a temple is associated more with Buddhism. So I think, if I'm not mistaken, shrine in Japanese would be jinja, while temple would be otera. So there's even a different name for the two of them. I was able to visit Meiji Jingu Shrine. This one is quite famous. It's a nice stroll, very scenic as well. You kind of take a little walk in a park before you end up at the shrine. I also went to Kanda Myojin Shrine. I kind of stumbled into this one. I was in Akihabara and I just looked at where could I go next, just wandering around, and I saw this shrine nearby, so I said I decided to check it out, and I thought it was a cool shrine, very ornately decorated. I also had the opportunity to go to Kawasaki Daishi Temple, and this is a massive temple. I think it's one of the biggest ones in Japan. It's huge. There's like multiple big kind of places where you can, well, multiple of these big Buddhist buildings, and it's just massive. And actually went to the Daishi temple on New Year's Day, and it was very crowded. I feel a little bad because I think you were supposed to line up outside, and I didn't know. I didn't see the line. I just saw kind of some entrance or exit area, and there's people, like two like security people standing next to it, and I saw someone go in, and I was like, well, if I'll go in as well. If I'm not supposed to, they should. And I get the security people would just say, oh, like the line's over there, and I got in, and I think I later later realized there's a massive line outside that was just stretching on for as long as I could see. So I kind of finessed the system, which. I mean, I'm glad that I didn't have to wait for so long to get in, but I also feel bad because there's a lot of people in line over there. And one thing that's cool is at these shrines and temples, you can buy either omikuji, which is like your fortune, or omamori, which is kind of like a protection or a charm, and it's kind of a cool way to collect souvenirs. The charms and the omikuji are just, I think, nice memorabilia. I actually hung a traffic accident protection omamori in my car. It's usually you hang it on like the mirror. But I don't like stuff hanging off of there, so I just hung it on one of the side of my door. But yeah, if anyone's wondering what fate or my fortune was, I don't remember. I got an omikuji at the Meiji Jingu, and I'm kind of blanking on. I don't. I think it was like you will be lucky, but it wasn't like the oh my gosh super lucky kind of year. I think there's different different levels of luckiness that you can get. But yeah, so just to kind of review the trip overall, this was my third time in Tokyo, and to be honest, I feel like I've kind of maxed it out. I'm familiar with the vibe now. I've been to quite a few of the famous spots already. I think one thing that I would still wish to knock off the bucket list is if I'm ever in Tokyo, I want to go up on the Sky Tree. It's a huge building, and you can just kind of see the Tokyo skyline. Um, yeah, that would be kind of one thing that I would like to do if I'm ever back in Tokyo. Didn't get a chance this time. And I haven't gone to the Imperial Palace yet either. It was closed when I strolled by. So there's still some stuff left, but I feel like Tokyo for me now is like, okay, if I have 3 nights to spend with my friends, yeah, let's go Tokyo. We're gonna have a good time, just kind of party, hang out, visit all the famous spots. But if I'm going to kind of explore or vacation in Japan any further, I'm definitely going to look elsewhere. I think I would like to visit Kyoto, and maybe Okinawa before I leave back to the States. So just some places that I haven't visited yet. I feel like those would have more to offer for me than going back to Tokyo again, for example. I didn't. What didn't help during the trip was that I wasn't a fan of the Tokyo vibe. And I know I say vibe a lot, but I think the atmosphere was just different in Tokyo. And what I mean by that is people are used to foreigners there, people coming from other countries, and that just kind of, I think, desensitizes them to it. And to be honest, there's been recently, I think, a string of foreigners that come to Japan and just kind of mess around and really are just not people that you want representing your country or just foreigners in general. And so I think there was definitely a difference in attitudes I saw when I was interacting with people in Tokyo versus interacting with people on my island or even in Kagoshima. People were more like, okay, all right, like it wasn't like I don't know. It was just colder. That's how we describe it. People here are warmer. I think that might be the case in any big city versus like a smaller town. Like I do think even in Hungary, if in Budapest, people are a little bit more like, okay, like just going on about their business. Whereas if you go to a smaller rural community, they would seem more welcoming. Even though a lot of the rural communities in Hungary have politics that I'm pretty and not entirely aligned with. But yeah, so that was just kind of my experience. And I think honestly, my this kind of what I'm describing with Tokyo right now, I would say it's the same for Yokohama. I think at this point I've maxed out this big city Japanese big city experience. One, like I said, Kyoto, I still want to travel to. That's a big city, but I feel like it's a different vibe. I think there's more shrines. There's a palace there as well. So I think that would be different than like Yokohama and Tokyo, for example. In any case, I got a couple of current events sections for you, so let's get to those. All right, welcome back, everyone. Let me try and speed through these current events sections, where they're rather short, fortunately. I know that previous section was quite long. It was a long trip. But both of these current events sections have something to do with an explosion of sorts. So, first, I was alerted by my friend in the morning about a volcanic explosion, and this was on the 14th of January, so about a week ago today. Don't worry, I'm all good. This volcano actually erupted 174 kilometers away, I believe. The eruption was a volcano called Mount Otake, and it exploded on the 14th, like I said, on Suwanosejima Island. And so the people there, or the Japanese government, raised the volcanic alert level to a 3 out of 5. So it's dangerous for people nearby. Rocks flew about 2 kilometers into the air and away from the mountain. But I think for people that were farther away, like myself, completely okay. Here in Tanegashima, it did get a little smoky, I think, during the later part of the day, but like even the weather, I was checking the how the weather quality on my phone, and it said like a little moderate or a little bit worse than good, and so everyone was just out. I think at that time I was actually just playing soccer. People were out and about, no masks on or nothing. It didn't really didn't affect us too much, fortunately. But so yeah, volcano blew up nearby. The other explosion that I wanted to talk about has something more to do with rocket power, and this isn't this is an explosion of rocket fuel, not an explosion of the rocket itself. What I'm talking about is recently JAXA, the Japanese Space Agency, and Mitsubishi Heavy Industries launched a rocket on the 12th of January. This was a successful launch that puts the Optical 8 information gathering, or spy satellite, into the air. And so the primary purpose of this satellite is to counter, or at least surveil, monitor North Korean aggression, but also just kind of be a satellite for weather, extreme weather events and stuff like that. One interesting thing to note is this was one of the last H-2A rockets fired from Japan. Japan's rocket is the H-2A. So far, 48 have been launched, with 2 more to go. Only 2 more are going to be launched. Japan wants to transition to the H-3 version of the rocket, but unfortunately one failed in March of last year. The next H-3 launch will be February 15th, so stay tuned for that. I will definitely be mentioning that in when mentioning that in the podcast when that happens. I think everyone, or I'm assuming most people have heard that there's kind of a space race of sorts. A lot of commercial companies trying to get in on launching rockets into space. You got Bezos's company. You got SpaceX with Elon Musk. There's I think India and China have also been launching their rockets, and so Japan's trying to keep up. I think that's why they're trying to pivot to the H-3 rocket. I'm going to cut to the closing section straight away and start with the word of the week, which is shakaijin. So shakaijin means person who is employed or not in school. They are a member of society, essentially. But the thing is, I got a little confused because shakai means like society, and I thought it meant world society, and then jin is for person. So I thought, like world society person. So for me, first, I thought that this was someone who has experience kind of traveling abroad or has been to many places. And so there's definitely a couple times I misused this word, and I said something like, "Oh, you're such a shakaijin." I wanted to say like, "Oh, you're like a very much a world traveler of sorts," when I just said, "Oh, well, you're very much a person who works for the society." So it's interesting how I think that was just maybe my bad, but I think maybe it's a little bit of an illustration of how kind of kanji can get confusing, or it's not completely straightforward at times. Your stat of the week is 20.8 kilometers, and this is the amount I walked on December 28th. I think I spoiled it a little bit earlier in the episode. I think I mentioned 21 kilometers or a half marathon. But yes, 20.8 kilometers on December the 28th. I want to thank you. I want to thank everyone for listening to this episode. Please consider subscribing. Appreciate every one of you that's already subscribed. I will be back in 2 weeks. See you then. Per aspera ad astra.